Hey guys, we are back. It is officially spring, getting towards the end of May here. We're kicking off the build season for 2025. I have been working on things that I've been posting on videos, but in bits and pieces when weather allowed. And actually, the weather is capricious in Colorado this time of year. We had snow last week. No kidding, about a foot of snow. So this is one of those situations where, look, it's 72 degrees and the wind has finally sort of died down enough that I might be able to get a video. I have recorded this video 3 times already, but the wind was so high the audio came out pretty bad. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of giving you a walkthrough of the site. Let's kind of review some priorities, figure out where we are. And the site is a mess. A big thing is that we have just moved out of a previous place that we were living. We downsized, which basically meant everything came here. The shed is jam-packed. I can't even walk in there. So we're spilling over out on the ground. I've got stuff that I couldn't figure out where I was going to put it. And, you know, some shingles are going up on the house anyway, so why bother storing them? I need to neaten all this stuff up and deal with stuff before the rain and mice get into it. But nothing that isn't a priority is happening. And the reason is that this is also our last year. We get one more chance this June to renew our building permit. And if we don't complete the structure, the whole grandfather arrangement runs out and we'll have to comply with some new building codes. Now, we did build to code. Everything in here pretty much, if I made a small mistake somewhere, it'd be the kind of thing, you know, typical inspection, an inspector would catch it and I'd fix it, no big deal. But we didn't get inspections for everything that are now required, and they no longer allow post and pier foundations, I found out. You've got to have a full perimeter pour, so maybe not so great for the environment with the concrete use, but still in all, we do have the ability to finish. If we can finish, we've got to get our CO in a year. So wish us luck and follow along. This is going to be a mad rush. Things are happening. I am making mistakes. I am in a hurry. I'm cutting corners, and I am just doing my best. Couple of things that have happened that may not have shown up on previous videos. You can see about half the house is pink. I did a trial run of a fluid applied WRB, and the reason is I had started with Tyvek. You can still see little bits of it flapping there, and we had about a 50-mile-an-hour windy day, and it tore it all off the house. Now, I used double the fastening schedule, and I was using the good cap staples with, you know, the green caps that are supposed to help prevent that. But I just didn't get it covered up in time, and that's a challenge here. You know, if there's a snowstorm and the site's not passable, I can't get in here, it's kind of hard to be doing siding. We're short on money, kind of hard to be doing something. So I've switched to Prosecco, and I'm going to be showing you that in a little bit, but you'll also notice I'm starting to proceed in kind of an unconventional order. House isn't fully dried in, but I'm working on windows. I'm working on shingles, even though I don't have other bits and details worked out. The reason is, you know, weather resistance is a top priority right now, but I need to do some dry runs. A lot of the materials that I'm using are not available at local stores. I have to make good decisions, do my research at home, purchase the items that I want to try, bring them here, try them, and if they don't work out, I either fix it on site, roll with it, or decide what else I'm going to do. And because I can't get items shipped here, it can take a couple of weeks for that process to happen. So because some of these materials I'm not used to or haven't worked with before, there are some experiments going on, and so sometimes I'll get something partly done to make sure it will work out. So you can see I've installed a couple of windows here, not because I'm really wanting to do windows out of order, but because I've experimented with the WRB. So let's talk about that. But before I walk inside, I did want to show the roof. That is coming along. I'm really happy with that, actually. I think I've made a couple of small mistakes, but I do think it's going to be watertight. I'm not a professional roofer, never said I was. But overall, I'm, you know, kind of doing all the best practices, got my drip rail and underlayment. You can't really see underlayment on the whole roof because I don't want the wind blowing it off, but you can see where it is. Basically what I do is, rather than going in the typical triangle style roofers do when they got a crew knocking it out in a day, that's just not going to happen for me. What I've been doing is I'll roll a roll of underlayment out and shingle over it immediately to help hold it down, because even if you staple the ever-loving heck out of it, that is just going to get ripped straight off the roof. I almost lost a whole sheet of it last night. So in any case, let's talk about the Prosecco, and then I'll make some follow-up videos on the next tasks. But one comment before I walk in, here's the progression. Get dried in, and then get to the point where I can do electrical and plumbing. In the county that I'm in, we have a state-administered electrical inspection that I have to pass, a plumbing inspection, and then we can go for the CO. To get a CO, we need front and back stairs, smoke detectors, one minimally working kitchen, doesn't need to be fully fitted out, one bathroom. House has to be closed in. We have to have those inspections, and there's like 5 or 6 other small things. We don't have to have siding. We don't have to have flooring. You don't need to have drywall or insulation. You don't need any of those things. They even tell you you can still be under construction when you go to get your CO. So we are going to take advantage of that. And basically, I am going to cut every single corner that can be cut. So if you see me doing sloppy work, it's for a reason. Sloppy deck work, there was a reason. I don't know if you saw this in my previous video, but although I'm doing it well, at least as well as I can, in my opinion, got joist tape and all the usual stuff, I haven't installed all the deck boards. I don't have clean cuts on everything. Why? Because I needed to set those posts and get the verticals up so that I could set that joist there, so that I could figure out the alignment of this ridge and where that was going to be, because that height of that ridge ties back into the house. And I needed that to happen so that I could close in the mudroom. So as soon as I started building the deck, I needed to get some deck boards because I couldn't walk. I can't carry plywood and stuff hopping over joists at 16 on center, right? So what do? Well, I get a couple of deck boards in, partly so I can walk, and also partly as an experiment for the system. So I got a fastening system, one of those little blind screw fastening systems that I'm honestly pretty unhappy with. It's really designed for Trex, and I don't think it works very well, or quite as well on wood. I'm getting a lot of warping, and it's kind of hard to make it up. So that may or may not be something that I stick with, but as you can see, corner cut. I got the experiment, I have the data, now I know what I'm going to do for the final version of the deck, but I don't need to walk on that part, so I'm not doing anything about it. I will put railings in. So let's walk in the house and talk about this Prosecco. This is a fluid applied WRB. It is waterproof and an air barrier. And it goes on in a couple of steps. There is a joint and seam filler that goes on. They say this is not caulk, but it acts just like caulk. It's a fiber reinforced material that goes on, like I said, just like caulk, and looks a lot like this. This material is the Fast Flash, and it's basically the same stuff, but it's not fiber reinforced. So it's much goopier and drippier. It spreads out more thinly. And then the final layer goes on with a roller or a sprayer. I'm using a roller because of the wind. And this is the final barrier. And you can see it makes a really nice barrier. I don't want to peel this away, but if I did, it is basically a liquid rubber. It's I think it's silastic or some type of elastomer. But in any case, it's a great material. I will say a couple of things. So I'm going to criticize it for a second, but I love it. So don't think that my next criticisms mean I think it's bad. This has been a great decision for me. This is 12 months UV stable. So unlike Tyvek or other things, I'm not in a rush. In fact, the county doesn't require us to have siding. We just have to have color mixed into the interior coat. So you better believe I'm going to have the ugliest house that's ever gone for a CO in this county because it's going to be pink. But I don't need to side over this because as long as I go for that within 12 months, it's still under warranty. I'm still good to go. So the wind is picking up. Let me just step inside here a little bit. The way this system works, let me actually show you a few other bits. You use a sausage gun and you get some sausage tubes of Fast Flash and the joint and seam filler. And this material is used to fill large cracks for joint and seam, and the Fast Flash is for things like windows and door frames. Now, I've made a first pass of the Fast Flash, and you'll notice it looks pretty gross, and that's not an accident. I stopped. So this is the Fast Flash, and it's great. It's fine. But it's insanely expensive, and almost mind-bogglingly so. So do some math with me. All of the material, which comes in these 5-gallon buckets here, to coat my walls, and I bought enough for 2 full coats, so I get a nice thick coat on it, cost plus 4 tubes of Fast Flash and 4 tubes of the joint and seam filler. Shipped and delivered was like $1,100. Now that's expensive. If you went Tyvek, you're looking at maybe $250, $300 a roll, depends on inflation, right? Then you've got to add your staples, and it does take an awful lot of them. So figure another 100, maybe $200 for staples, caps, and if you don't already own one, the stapler, because it's a cap stapler. So all that said and done, you're looking at, for a house this size, budget around $600. This is about double that. So you start thinking, well, okay, I can justify that because I got the extra warranty. But the other thing is that I can apply it from the ground without a lift. So I can use my pole here and my roller. It's a roller applied fluid, and I can literally paint the house with it. You have to put it on very thick. That's all. The joint and seam filler is very cost effective. It's about $25 a tube. If you buy it in 4 packs, I think it's like 60. So there's a decent discount. And the application rate is great. You pretty much only need it in your corners or anywhere you have big mistakes or gaps. So although you can't see it because I put other material on it now, I've got joint and seam filler down here in some of the gaps. I wasn't perfect carpenter. I had a little bit bigger of an opening on my sill than I liked. So I did use the joint and seam filler here. But when I went to use Fast Flash, that material, which is supposed to be the next coat, basically what you would think of zip tape is doing, I got a window this size with the application rate I was doing, and maybe I was applying it too thick, but getting good coverage and making sure I didn't have any spots or pinholes, it would take me like 2 full tubes to do this one window. It's $40 a tube. So when you do the joint and seam filler and the exterior coating, those two are really cost effective. But the flashing material is almost the opposite. I think it would double the cost of the product just to use the Fast Flash. So maybe somebody use the comments section if you're watching this, if anybody actually knows this product. Maybe I'm just over applying it and it's way too thick, but this is about the thickness I'm applying. So you can almost see through it. So I don't think I'm using too much. And I don't know, in any event, what I decided to do is switch courses, and these systems are compatible with each other. So I've decided to go with zip tape for my windows. And you can see that's one of the reasons I installed one. Now, you'll notice I didn't take the zip all the way in. It does go all the way out, wraps around the way it should. You put the bottom layer on, then you put your 2 sides, and then you use the big stretch, the stretch tape, to do your corners. So I did it the way you're supposed to do it with Flash. It's all rolled, everything's properly installed. But I was running out of material, and like I said, they don't stock this in the local store. It's some generic brand, and I really wanted to stick with zip. So I will come back in and detail this, but I had to get a window in because I also was testing my window installation methods. So there's another experiment, another corner cut. So I will come back, I will fix all these details, but you can see basically what I've worked out is Prosecco for the exterior, Prosecco's joint and seam filler for any big gaps, but I'm going to stick with zip tape for all of my windows. And it sticks just fine. It goes on there. It grips it like crazy. This Prosecco is a very compatible material with the adhesive Zip is using. I have confirmed that. So I'm not worried about it. And overall, I think the system together works very well. I'm trying to wrap my head around the cost differential. And I don't know. I will happily assume it's my fault, but that's where we are. All right, so just to review, I am in progress on about 6 things. We've got windows on the way, so I am flashing for them now. We're making final decisions on where everything's going, and I have a few things to fix. Over here in the great room, I will be fixing my sills here. I sloped all my sills 5 degrees out. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there is about a 5-degree slope here, so if any water finds its way in, it will find its way back out. And somehow I did not slope these sills. I don't know what I did. I must have been having a bad day, but I neglected to do that. And I do want to do that. So I'm going to come fix these bottom sills here. That should be really easy to do. I'm just going to sawzall out the back nails, lift it a tiny bit, and just re-nail it back in there. They aren't really load-bearing. All the weight on a window bears on the exterior frame, and that's not getting affected by this, so shouldn't cause any problems. You can see we're going to have 12 windows here, and I have 8 of them cut and framed because we weren't sure we wanted the upper row. We have now finally decided that we want to do that, so I'll be going ahead and finishing the framing for the upper windows, cutting out the sheathing for those, just not in a rush. Hey, why risk rain coming in when I don't need to? Get all my flashing done for my windows so that when the windows come, I can start installing them. I need to finish doing all the WRB on the exterior. Need to finish the roofing. And those are all my projects for kind of this month going into next month. Now, if I can achieve that, you can see the house is really starting to get dark in here, so I may need to start arranging lighting because now that I'm shingling, it's covering things up. But I have a few small bits of roofing to complete, just some little bits. And actually, I was doing, I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous video, but I left that open on purpose for a bit because I was still using the winch. And if you remember my winch system from earlier videos, that's how I was getting heavy materials up onto the roof. So as soon as I close that roof in is the last moment I can do that. And I've just been kind of stalling, I guess. But this weekend is the day, so I will be working on that, finishing that off, and getting some other final framing details. And then we're going to be spending an awful lot of time indoors. As soon as this house is closed in, I am immediately going to skip every other detail that I can. I won't even be cutting out like this door opening that's going to go in here. I'm just going to close that off. And we're going to get into our plumbing and electrical. So just to review that, we've got a mechanical room framed out here. And this should be a really nice space off the master. Over on the right here, we're going to have a washer dryer. And over on the left here, we're going to have, the water heater and other major utilities, particularly solar. It's not an accident that this room is the way it is. If you remember from the upper floor, and I can kind of just show this here, just above this space is the lower portion of the attic. The attic will just be for storage for now, but this is the more useless section because it's a very shallow 5/12 pitch roof. So it really comes down like all the way to the outer wall there. And because of that, there's not a lot of room to really get in. So that's going to be additional mechanical. And all the solar penetrations to the roof are going to come up here. I'll be able to do my plumbing vents from there so that I don't have to run my plumbing vents, over through other sections, so on and so forth, right? So once I get all of this stuff set up, I will start to work on electrical and plumbing in some of the other rooms. This will be the master bath back here. We'll have a double vanity, shower, and toilet. And the main septic drain down to the septic tank is literally below where I'm pointing here. So that's not an accident. We did that on purpose. We're ready to go. Just need to tie all this in. We won't be doing any plumbing through here up through the ceiling because even though we might add a bedroom there someday, it's just out of scope for right now. So I'm going to get to work on all that. For electrical, we'll have a solar install here with a rack with probably only one battery in it at first, just to save the cost. But the batteries will go here and the inverter and the control systems. And then punching through that wall, there will be a connector on the outside somewhere around there for the generator. So there will be a small generator house of some kind down there and just kind of keep things out of the house. And we'll, be able to have a backup to our solar. Solar's been great here. We get insane solar input here in Colorado. And this is the south-facing wall of the house. So looking up the hill there, that is the south direction. So this entire roof above our heads will be covered with panels, all facing south, and pitched at about 22.5 degrees. That's a 5/12 pitch roof. Not the ideal slope, but a decent slope. So very good and certainly better than the camper. The camper gets so much solar input that I'm not worried about it. Finally, just kind of thinking through some details here. Obviously, we'll have to do electrical through the rest of the house, get the kitchen going, a little bit of propane line work, and at that point, we're going to start going for inspections. So bear with us, stick with us, wish us luck, and please don't laugh because I'm going to give you lots of material to laugh at. I'm going to be cutting corners like crazy because we are out of time and mostly out of budget. And it is pretty much a disaster scenario for us if we can't complete this because, you'd have to tear it down. That's the remedy in most cases. You can expose things for inspections and stuff like that, but it's not just missing inspections. If they're not going to allow post and pier, that's a really serious thing. I'm not going to try to pour a foundation under this house. So in any event, wish us luck, like and subscribe, stick with us. Let us know in the comments section if you see anything that strikes you as funny or interesting or weird. And otherwise, enjoy the view as this project comes together. Welcome to Build Madness 2025, Robinson style.